I think a lot of people need to become a little better at detecting bait on this app. I'm going to use this video as an example of how to detect bait. Basically, this video is a white trans guy saying that he wants to be black. I believe that this account is bait, but whether or not this specific account is bait, you can still use these tips to detect when other accounts are bait. Unfortunately, it is pretty common for people to use videos and photos of queer and trans people to try to make them look bad. So this is the account in question, all right? Well, the first red flag that you can detect whenever you're looking at bait accounts is that almost all of the videos are like photos instead of videos. This is typically because it's easier to collect photos of someone and then just like make them say whatever you want them to say because it's just a photo. And if the account does actually have videos, you'll notice that most of the time the videos are not of people talking, and if they are talking, they're not showing their face. So for example, there's this video on this account where this guy is basically explaining how he's like not changing his race, but that he like wants to have darker skin and stuff like that. But you'll notice that he doesn't show his face and he's just using a random photo as the background in an AI voice in order to talk about it. The reason that this is a red flag is because this guy is showing his face in other videos. He clearly isn't just a faceless creator, and the reason that they're posting a video of like speaking without showing his face is because he's not actually saying the words. If you see videos like this where it's just like a random video with a caption, it's because they stole that video from someone else and just put a random caption on it. And this is especially apparent when it is clearly a video that's supposed to have like text on it already. They'll put opaque text to cover the other text. I'm not saying that all accounts that follow these like guidelines are bait, but a lot of them are. And the reason it's so easy to do this is because if you are posting videos and photos of yourself and you're not like a super popular creator, anyone can just like go and steal your stuff and put stuff over it to like make you look bad. I've seen a lot of accounts like this. This is not the only one. This is just an example that I was using. So yeah, stay safe out there, especially if you're a queer or trans person. People will like try to do this to you. I have seen several accounts where the original person who is actually like in the videos comes forward and is like, hey, this isn't me. This is someone else using my photos.
Oh, look at this. That looks delicious. Thank you so much. Real quick, though. My wife here, she's very allergic to peanuts. I mean, deathly allergic. We checked online. It said no nuts. We checked before we got here. It said no nuts. And I'm going to ask you one last time, sir, please. There's no nuts in this, right? No nuts. All right, thank you. Thank you very much. Dig in, honey. Enjoy your meal. Oh, my God. I'm sorry? Sorry, didn't mean to bring you back. But my wife, fucking dead. So, what? Oh shit, that one had peanuts. Do you have Disney Plus? My fucking wife. Yes, I have Disney Plus. What? You're looking at me like I should know something. Is there something I should know about having Disney Plus? Technically speaking, I could kill your fucking wife. This is the Magic Kingdom!
You know what's really wild about being a black girl with white friends? Your white friends could be the front on the lines. They could be the activists. They could be the community organizers. They could be like the coolest of cool people, and they passed your standard for your test of what types of white people you let in your life, which is like incredible. You're like, you're the coolest. You're the dopest. We're fucking with Mark. We're rocking with Mark because Mark rocks with us, right? However, just because they're like that doesn't mean that their friends and family are like that as well. And it is the most devastating. It's like a very specific type of heartbreak when you find out that your friends' friends are just not it. And maybe, sure, they could like, you know, black people, or maybe they're like, well, I date black guys, you know, one of those people, but like they really don't fuck with black women. And like, you can't be like, hey, by the way, your friends are like a little bit racist, or hey, by the way, this microaggression happened to me at this party, or hey, this and that and the third. And it's so devastating because it almost like reaffirms if you grew up in a predominantly white place, it reaffirms this feeling of like you can't quite fit in. It's so heartbreaking. And you know, I literally never really know what to do, but it's happened to me so many times where I'm just like, damn, this sucks. This is painful. This is a very specific type of heartbreak that I like. It's like, it's worse than, to me, it feels like it's like a betrayal. It's like worse than somebody cheating on you. Like, it's like the biggest heartbreak.
How many Einsteins have spent their lives washing dishes? How many Mozarts bent over stoves instead of pianos because they had the misfortune of being born a woman?
Women who have had the most diabolical lies told to you, that the majority of you are most excited about your marriage and the children you will bring into this world.
You must be right. This is an amethyst, except an amethyst is big and strong. This one is not the best example. Something is clearly wrong.
Regina, wait, I didn't mean for that to happen. To find out that everyone hates me, I don't care. Regina, please. Regina, stop! Do you know what everyone says about you? They say that you're a homeschooled jungle freak who's a less hot version of me.
Oh, Disney, this is not better. So Peter Dinklage, he said, literally, no offense to anyone, but I was a little taken aback when they were very proud to cast a Latina actress as Snow White, but you're still telling the story of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. You're progressive in one way, but then you're still making this effing backward story about seven dwarves living in a cave together. What the F are you doing, man? Have I done nothing to advance the cause for my soapbox? And then Disney was like, we hear you. To avoid reinforcing stereotypes from the original animated film, we are taking a different approach with these seven characters, and I've been consulting with members of the dwarfism community. And they came up with this. This was what they came up with. And we responded saying, hey, Disney, this is worse. This was in the 1930s, and don't replicate this. Don't do the 1930s again. But this is not better. You have one little person and then no one else representing the little person community. What are you doing? What are you doing? Like, the entire point that Peter was making was, hey, why are we being represented at all? You should get rid of all our representation. He was saying, hey, how about you try to have some representation that isn't cringe and weird and supports the actual little person community? Like, can you imagine the amazing actors that could have been cast and could have like the career boost of having been in this film, but instead CGI. We got CGI dwarves. And I just go, oh, I wonder who's doing the voiceovers for these dwarves. And I just go, how does this help the little person community? I don't see it helping them at all, giving them careers or money. This is replicating the terrible representation that was being critiqued. And it doesn't even have like the very low-hanging fruit of that Benetton ad of weirdness that they were going to do, because at least that would have been fun to laugh at.
Yeah, I don't know if you like me. Sometimes I think you might hate me. Sometimes I think I might hate you. Maybe you just want to be me. You always...
Our next contestant is Warren. Okay, so there's no more balloons, so go ahead and go.
So I live in Portland, Oregon, and my rent just got increased by $100. So I decided to call the management office and ask them, why has my rent been increased by $100? Because the building has had no upgrades to make it make sense for why it would be that high. And the building manager let me know that they are, in his words, increasing the rent as much as possible in order to get it to market rate value for anyone who renews their lease or any new person that is coming in to rent. So I asked them, how are you determining market value? And they let me know that they are using RealPage, the software company that just got raided by the FBI for artificially inflating rent prices across the country by coordinating landlords and buildings and getting them all to increase their rent at the same time. And did I mention that I'm Latina and I've had my rent illegally increased in Portland numerous times in order to pressure and move all the Latinos out of the building? Because while my rent got increased by $100, my friends who live in the building who are not Latino had their rent only increased by $8. What do you think that's all about?
This is the I've never been more disappointed in the older butch community than I am right fucking now. What the hell is that? What the?
Protesting is a privilege, fam. I've worked here for 5 years. I can't believe they still make me do tweets. I know you really have to work your way up to, but come on, like something with a disguise. No queer liberation without nuking Iran. Hey Derek, what the hell does cis-sexist mean? I'm starting to think they never give you a poison dart, babe. They just say that so we don't complain. My fellow white warriors, what's the most based plan you've come up with? I've started seeing Wojaks whenever I close my eyes. Got to go to an anarchist group once, and then they just argued the whole time. What about the poor people that need weapons manufacturing jobs to survive? Please just let me plant one listening device. If you joined in the 60s, you could get a pension and help assassinate the president. Was that us? Have they told you if that was us?
And we're back with more lesbian fashion history. And just for context, you can click this comment to take you back to the original video, but we're basically talking about clothing items that were used or worn throughout history to signify lesbianism. While this seems really commonplace today, we're going to be talking about pants. Because believe it or not, it wasn't even until 1923 that women were even allowed to wear pants, or it was legal to wear pants in America. I'm going to be including all of the article names on screen, and I highly recommend that you research and look up the articles in entirety if you are interested at all in this topic. Again, although it was legal for women to wear pants, it was not common. And I'm just going to paraphrase this article, but basically the B2B World Wars introduced pants to women, but they only really wore them at home. Like, you wouldn't really see women out and about wearing pants unless you are a lesbian. But it was actually illegal for women to wear a fully masculine fit because of the three-piece law. And this article, called We're Entering a Joyful New Era of Lesbian Fashion, goes into that. Where the author Colleen Hamilton writes, after World War II, a collision of masculine and feminine aesthetics occurred because of renewed enforcement of legislation like New York's 1845 three-piece clothing law, which dictated that women had to wear at least 3 articles of feminine clothing. Again, the outfit that I'm wearing right now, I could be thrown into jail for wearing. I pulled this picture from Autostraddle, but this photo was actually taken from a jail cell in 1943. They were jailed for violating the three-piece law. To add more nuance to the pants discussion, clocking a lesbian meant that maybe she was wearing pants in addition to wearing other masculine styles. For example, a woman's button-down, the buttons are on the left, whereas a men's shirt, the buttons are on the right. So the lethal combo of the pants and maybe wearing a button-down shirt with your buttons to the right was enough to throw you into jail and be labeled as a crossdresser. Next up, we have Doc Martens. What can I say? We love a chunky boot. This image is taken from the Doc Martens website, and it's from the San Francisco 1989 Pride. Even though this image is 30 plus years old, lesbians are still wearing this uniform today. And I'm going to paraphrase some information from this article by Alexis Zigan. But the article talks about how Doc Martens gained traction in the 1970s in counterculture groups due to their price tag, accessibility, and availability in secondhand shops. She also says that butch women, who were more likely to work non-traditional jobs for women at the time in male-dominated fields, often wore Doc Martens. This article by Eleanor Medhurst of Dressing Dykes goes into more of the theory-based explanation why lesbians are so drawn to sensible footwear. She's an actual lesbian fashion historian, so I really strongly, again, suggest that you check out her work. So now let's connect this to overarching fashion theory. So Dick Hebdige is a household name in sociology. He's most known for his work in subcultures and his book, Subculture: The Meaning of Style. It's really fascinating when he analyzes UK-based subcultures and how they formed. But the reason I bring him up is because one of the dominant arguments in his book is that once mainstream culture recognizes and starts adapting the nuances, style, aesthetics of the subculture, that is the moment that the subculture's power or influence or meaning begins to die or lose its meaning. And I bring this up only because it ties in perfectly with the main video I stitched. Mainstream culture has adopted lesbian styles. We can no longer tell who's gay or not. So we need a new code.
This is what it's like to be in a queer relationship. Baby, yo compré este sticker porque que no somos tú y yo en otro universo. Ah, es verdad. Y este sí que sí somos nosotros en otro universo.
Baby, mira, somos nosotros. Mira, también somos nosotros.
Somos nosotros. Baby, somos nosotros en otro universo.
Estoy aquí porque literalmente somos tú y yo en otro universo. Mira, dos monitos y estos dos.
Baby, yo también compré estos cuadritos porque somos tú y yo en otro universo.
Underrated queer artists of color, the Squeakquel. Okay, first up, Arlo Parks. Arlo Parks makes music for sad dykes. Okay, so I was already tapped in. To describe it, it's like a warm bubble bath with rose petals and 2 bottles of wine. You shouldn't have both, but you have to. It's sensual, it's romantic, it's devastating. Like, they collab with Phoebe Bridgers, so exactly. Next up, Hope Tala. Hope Tala's music has defined many of my villain eras, okay? And I'm not talking like, I'm fucking villain. I'm talking like I'm so mysterious and who knows what I'll do by the end of the night. It's very mysterious, it's very cool girl, it's like alty, R&B, poppy, and all my girls like to fight. That'll get you right. Okay. Next up, Dreamer and Sioma. We know them. Fuck, niggas always want to take my shit. 2020 happened, we were all there, and they did continue to make music after that, and it does in fact bump. I would say their vibe is very much like after the villain era. Like, Consequences of My Own Actions soundtrack. I hate that bitch, she did me so dirty soundtrack. It's really genre bending, it's very worldly, it's very observant, and it'll get you very mindful. Next up, and finally, Miss Bird. I think we all know Miss Bird. She strums real hard, but she also just dropped an EP, an album, and she's doing vocals, okay? Drain Me goes crazy. It's very much like Angry Dyke with a guitar. Could you really ask for anything more? I also made a playlist with all of these artists and all the other ones and more fruits of color. It's in my Instagram bio. So, stream. Thanks.
You sit right down and stay a while. We like the same things and I like your style.
The tattoo industry is super racist. There's so many issues within the tattoo industry, and I've realized that after only working here for a limited amount of time. But the top 2 that I see often, or the top 3, racism, homophobia, and gender discrimination, like misogyny. And the problem is, the people who are the problem aren't gonna listen to me, but it's just such an issue. Just be aware whenever you're going to get tattooed. If they don't have like a lot of black people on their page, representation, then I wouldn't go to them. Because at the end of the day, I don't care if you think that tattoos show up better on white skin. Black people need to know what their tattoo will look like on their skin. They need to know that you're competent and able to tattoo their skin tone. So why are there so many artists that don't post black people? Then I've just heard so much like microaggressions from my coworkers in regards to all 3 of the categories I listed. I just recommend doing some research on your tattoo artist to avoid situations like that, because half the time people don't get fired for doing stupid stuff like this, and it's crazy. I used to work at a place that a guy got accusations where pretty bad accusations and they didn't really do anything about it. Like, what? But yeah, this industry is just wild. I just wanted to say something about it. I don't know. And in a lot of ways it is like a boys club, so. And not posting black people isn't the only issue. It's just my telltale red flag that I've seen for the most part. At the end of the day, it's not gonna work all the time, and I really can't tell you that much advice as a white woman. It's just something that I noticed and I wanted to point out because it's really disgusting to me, especially as someone who is in the industry. And I feel like it needs to be addressed, and we need to get, more shops that are more of a safe space for people, if that makes sense. There's so many tattoo shops in Houston, but there's only like 3 that I personally would feel comfortable going and getting tattooed at, honestly. Like, I haven't gone to all of them, but you know what I mean?
So the other day I was tagged in a video talking about the privilege of being able to boycott. And the creator, I'm not going to tag him because I feel like they get a lot of hate anyways, but the creator pointed to disability being one of the reasons why somebody may or may not be able to boycott something. And I want to talk about this from a very superficial level and then kind of dig down a little bit deeper into it. And I'm going to talk about brands, particularly boycott safe brands, and their exclusion of disabled people. So in December, I actually got a PR package from a company called Guide Beauty. Guide Beauty's chief creative officer is Selma Blair, which, if you know, she was caught making Islamophobic comments on Instagram. Now, I had gotten this PR package back in December. I think I was away when I got it. And luckily, my ADHD finally worked in my favor, because by the time I was actually ready to make the PR video, I had already seen those comments and decided not to do anything. Instead, I reached out to my management. A lot of people are like, you have management? Yes, I do. I have management. And I reached out to my management and I said, can you go down a list of boycott safe brands and see if they're willing to collaborate on an accessible beauty line or something that's accessible to disabled consumers in the beauty space. And it's fair to say that I'm not a beauty creator, but I'm personally of the mind where, like, if it's not me, I would love to make connections and make sure that people are getting the opportunities that they want. I just want to know if brands are open to actually working with disabled creators, as well as developing something for disabled consumers. My manager went down the list and contacted as many beauty brands as possible to see if they'd be willing to collaborate with a disabled person on something like this. Every single one of them said no, or said that it wasn't the time, said it wasn't, didn't have the right budget, what have you. And all of those things could be true, but that still means that Guide Beauty is going to be the place where most disabled people get their accessible beauty tools. And that is an inconsequential example. I've seen people lose aid workers, people to help them get dressed and showered and go about their day because they are pro-Palestine. There are disabled people that become homeless for their pro-Palestinian stance. But imagine there's a product or a service that you need to survive, and all of your options are boycott unsafe. And the companies that are boycott safe aren't really interested in working with you or even branding to consumers like you. Which is very ironic given the nature of what's going on in Palestine, right? Because this is a mass disabling event. And the people seeing that it's a mass disabling event would much rather say that those people's lives are over because they are now disabled than ever create a world in which disabled people are actively included. Like, I can understand why you would think that life is over once you have a disability. Are you one of the people making it difficult for disabled people to live our lives publicly and inclusively? And this also very much so goes with the Congo too, right? Disabled people use a lot of technology to get through our everyday life. And while I personally am going to cut back on the amount of new technology that I buy in solidarity with the Congo, if somebody's deaf and the software that they use to navigate and translate their world only exists on new phones, are you willing to learn ASL so they don't have to get that new phone? Part of the reason why disabled people lean on technology, on these boycott unsafe brands and all these things, is because we've designed a society where private corporations take the lead on actually designing inclusive societies. And it's between them and disabled people to make things work. But for the most part, everyday society very much so does not really interact with disabled people.
I hate the police, and I hate the military, and I hate the church, and I hate the government and white supremacy.